Campaign 2016 segment tonight, one of the so-called political action groups supporting Hillary Clinton is Priorities USA, heavily funded by far-left financial guy George Soros. Secretary Clinton is not allowed by law to have direct contact with a group like that, which is hammering Donald Trump over the woman issue. A recent ad featured various women mouthing words that Trump has said.
I view a person who's flat-chested is very hard to be attacked.
And you can tell them to go themselves.
Does Donald Trump really speak for you? Priorities USA Action is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Now, the go bleep yourself line had nothing to do with women.
We're going to have businesses that used to be in New Hampshire that are now in Mexico come back to New Hampshire, and you can tell them to go themselves.
So they took that line about economics and put it into a anti-women commercial. Joining us from Washington, Molly Hemingway, senior editor at The Federalist, an internet magazine here in New York City. Emily Shire, political editor at Bustle, an online women's magazine. Do you consider that to be deceptive?
You know, I wouldn't have included that line if I'm focusing an attack on Trump's views on women, just because he provides plenty of evidence on his own in his misogynistic comments about women. However, I do think that comment is very important to put out there to voters because it raises questions about his presidential temperament. I think it's completely fair game to have it evaluated.
All right, but not in the context of the way they did it, because the ad featured all women, and the ad was all of the other things in the ad were points that they believe, Priorities USA believe, shows that Trump is anti-woman, and then they throw in that as a deceptor. Is that acceptable to you? As a journalist, is it acceptable?
I think it's acceptable because the comments are all fair game.
So you're
but
okay with that? See,
yes, but I don't think it's an effective ad. I mean, I don't think
all right,
Donald...
But that's aside. I don't want deceit, all right, in the public airways. Am I wrong, Ms. Hemingway?
Well, all quotes are going to be taken a little bit out of context. This one was really bad, and it undercuts the entire point of the ad. If you're going to go after Donald Trump, you have to be really careful how you do it, because he can easily say, well, this was totally taken out of context, and I think he has a very legitimate point here.
Right away, he tweeted it was, and that diminishes the whole ad. But what I'm trying to get at here is there's no rules for Priorities USA. There are no rules for these people. They can do whatever they want to do. This is an internet ad. Soros kicks in millions and millions of dollars to this group. All right? They're not an honest group. They never have been. It's smear merchant stuff. As Emily just pointed out, there's enough stuff legitimately that you can debate about Donald Trump and women in the USA. You don't have to do this. But these people are compulsive. They almost can't stop.
Well, I think the bigger problem might be, too, you know, we know that candidates can't coordinate with these super PACs. But isn't it interesting that the media have been hitting this very same theme at the same time as the PAC has? So the New York Times just had a hit on the very same topic,
well, because
Donald's treatment of women.
It's one of the issues they believe that can hurt Trump in the general election. So do you believe that there's a concerted effort, and you work for a women's magazine?
I do indeed.
Okay. There's a concerted effort by not only the Soros crew, which is working in conjunction, I should say, she's working on behalf of Hillary Clinton. They want her elected. And the New York Times and other liberal media to kind of paint this picture that Trump is a anti-woman guy.
No, because he does that himself this election with his own comments about Carly Fiorina, about Heidi Cruz. I mean, these completely rub women the wrong way. He, of all Republican candidates since 1972, polls the absolute worst with white women. He's doing this all on his own. I just think it's, you know, almost ineffective to do an ad targeting him on women from the perspective.
So you think that the whole issue has been decided already?
Look,
you don't have to do it anymore.
I think he puts his own evidence forward that I wouldn't be focusing super PAC ads on.
And that's what Hillary Clinton's going to do. Last question for you, Ms. Hemingway. But you know what Trump's going to do back? He's going to say, don't mess with me on the ladies issue because you got your own ladies issue.
I mean,
that's where it's heading.
If you have one name associated with bad treatment of women in politics, that name is Clinton. And
Yeah,
right
I
now,
know.
Hillary's talking about how she's going to have him,
I think we should
her
just
husband having
cede
this
this whole
prominent
thing.
role. And it's a disaster if she's bringing him back into the
Right.
White House, and he has some serious problems, and Donald Trump is not afraid to bring those back up in the same way that many media figures
well
are.
with women
Well, we
to
don't know
keep
yet.
someone back on what their spouse is doing.
Trump
That's not
needs-
really fair.
Trump needs 10% more women, as the latest poll shows, to get the White House. He needs to persuade 10% more to go his way. Ladies, thank you. Plenty more ahead as the Factor moves along this evening. Miller on more PC madness on campus. Now men and women should be blended. No differences. Wait till you hear this. Also, Martha McCallum on a woman going nuts in a Target store.
What Target has done is very hateful. It's hateful towards families. It's hateful towards mothers. It's hateful towards children.
And that was the cereal aisle. We hope you stay tuned for those reports.